thank you to my friend from Prince George. I also turned my mind back to September 11th, 2001, when he started his speech there. I can share with you, he remembers that there were Canadians controlling NORAD. My constituent in my same Rotary Club, Captain Mike Jelinek, was in charge, in command of what they call the Mountain in Colorado and NORAD. An extraordinary story. Can you imagine being in more of a crucible of decision-making, stress, and yet kept control? One of the things that a lot of people in the public don't know, but that he shared, I mean, it's public information, people wonder, why did they not scramble the jets of the military jets and shoot down the planes the hijackers had taken control of those jets to aim them for buildings? They couldn't, because the hijackers, the terrorists, had turned off the transponders. So what they saw on their radar was just a sea of dots. But the ones that were actually, were the hijacked planes, had disappeared from view. That's why they had to make all the planes in the airspace go and land so they could then see what was going on. So it's a very complex story. But I differ with my friend on C-59. I was here for the debates on C-51. I learned a lot from the security experts who testified to committee. None of that advice was taken up by the previous government, but I'll give you one piece of testimony that came before the Senate. And Joe Fogarty is the name of a British security expert, actually a spy from the Brits who has been doing work with Canada at the time. And what he told us was stories of things that had already happened, where the RCMP knew of a terrorist plot camp, but didn't want to tell CSIS. Or CSIS knew of something and didn't want to tell the RCMP. John Major, the judge who ran the Air India inquiry, told us that passing C-51 would make us less safe unless we had pinnacle control, some agency or entity that saw what all of our spy agents, 5 of them, what they were all doing. I think C-59 takes us in the right direction by creating the security agency that will allow us to know what each agency is doing, because human nature, and we heard this from experts, will not share information, and C-59 helps us in that regard.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
You know, our honourable colleague speaks of that day. Mr. Speaker, about 2 years after that day, I was representing Canada at the 100th centennial flight, and I had the honour of being with some of our Canadian snowbirds. And one of the pilots that I was with that night was talking about, we were talking about 9/11. And he was talking, and one of the stories I don't tell you is that there was a 747 loaded coming over from Asia, and it was right over Whitehorse, and it was going to land at our airport, but it was going to land at our airport, but we didn't know whether there was terrorists on board. Our honourable colleague is correct. What happened was, and we didn't know whether there was one aircraft or more aircraft that were coming loaded with terrorists. There was a lot of uncertainty. And I said, and so I relate this story about the 747, and we were preparing all and scrambling all the emergency vehicles, and I said, but thankfully at one point, I said it was very close to being shot down. And this pilot said, I want to tell you, it was literally seconds away, because we were the jets that were scrambled, and I was one of the jets that were scrambled beside this. The threats are very real, and to the honourable colleague's comment, there is there's a lot that we don't know that goes on, and that's because we trust our organizations, that we, you know, that when we go to bed at night, they make sure that we're safe and sound, that they're doing their job, and but they're sharing that information. And I offer this, and our honourable colleague mentioned it, Air India and the sharing of data. We must make sure that that interoperability is there. But that interoperability, and I will remind folks, and very quickly in my closing remarks here, everything that we do in Canada impacts our relationships with our friends across the way. If we weaken our laws here, our security laws here, you're going to see retaliatory measures on the other side. And whether it's goods or people, we need to make sure that we are in lockstep with all of our partners, whether it is North American or international, in terms of security. Thank you.